Hi, I'm Steve Maller.
And I'm Doreen Maller, and this is Belle.
This is Survival Tips for Unsettled Times.
In this video, we're going to talk about feelings, and especially using art to express your feelings. Some people have an easy time talking about feelings, and other people don't. So today's video is all about different ways that we can use art to express ourselves.
If you like our video today, please click the like button. Please also subscribe to our channel, and if you want to be notified whenever we release a new video, you can click the little bell down below.
Bell?
Hi, Bell. And you'll be notified.
Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you. Thanks so much for watching today. We'll see you soon.
Part 1, extending your feeling vocabulary. Most people have very small group of words that they use for their feelings. Sad, mad, bad, glad. But actually, there's a ton of words out there that are useful to use when you're discussing your feelings. And as a therapist, what I found is these feeling charts that I'm going to show you really are helpful. I have a game in my office called Feeling Bingo, and we'll go through the chart and play bingo, and every time we hit a new feeling word, we'll talk about when was the last time you felt frustrated, or when did you feel grumpy, or were you ever mad, or what makes you happy? And it's an opportunity to extend a conversation about feelings non-judgmentally, to just understand how this person is comfortable extending their feelings. Let's get started. I downloaded a feeling chart from the internet. These are pretty easy to find, and you can see that they have all sorts of words available: calm, embarrassed, sick, angry, excited, silly. You can download too and maybe put it up on your refrigerator, and if somebody's having a feeling and you're getting frustrated with it, you can point and say, tell me exactly how you're feeling, and they can point to the sign. But because this is our art videos, I want to talk to you about creating your own feeling chart. So you can use a chart like this as a guide. And starting with a piece of paper, you can separate it into sections if you want, and I'm going to make mine pretty big. So this is a way that you can spend time with your family or even by yourself and just explore your feeling words. So if I were to grid this off and create little feeling sections, and they don't have to be perfect, and then create a series of emojis or little drawings. I've seen people do this as a journal. So let's do silly. Let's start with silly. So let's say I'm going to do it as an emoji. So what would my silly face look like? I'll put some ears on it. Here's some hair. That's when I feel silly. Sometimes when you feel silly, you can be over silly and it can start bugging people. But being in a silly mood is kind of fun. How about worried? Well, when I'm in my worried space, I sometimes get a furrowed brow. My eyes are a little bit different, right? And let's put my curly hair on this one. So if somebody said to me, hey, Doreen, how you feeling right now? And I was feeling silly, I might be laughing. But if I was feeling worried, I might be a little grumpy. Let's say bored. Bored is one thing that some of us might be feeling when we're being sheltered in place. And it's okay to be bored, right? That's the whole thing, is having a conversation about what it feels like to feel these feelings, right? So kind of bored, maybe I have a little yawny face there. Let's put this kind of hair down on this person, right? What do you do when you're bored? So instead of saying don't be bored, you might want to say, well, what can we do because we're bored? How can we have a conversation about the feelings that we're having? What are you worried about exactly? Oh, well, what do you think we can do about it? Is there anything we can do to change it? When you're worried like that, what makes you feel better? And see, it increases an ability to have a conversation about these words. Okay, let's do some more. Jealous. That's an interesting word for these times. One of the things I've noticed that is actually making people feel pretty good right now is that we're all in it together, and that there's a kind of sense of, well, we're all trying to manage as best we can, right? The jealous person sometimes is wondering about what other happy people are doing behind them. But the fact is, most people are happy sometimes and not happy all the time. Here's jealous. Let's see what other words I can find. Confused. Let's see what confused might look like. I'm finding that some people are getting very confused by their homework without their teachers around. So confused, right, can be, I'm just a little bit confused about what's going on right now. And you can also be frustrated. So frustrated is a different one, which is probably a little bit more aggravated. Than confused. So people may be frustrated by the amount of homework they have to do, the expectations of the people around them, right? Let's think of another good word, helpful. So it's good to think about how being helpful can actually make you happy right now. So sometimes I love helping. And for me, one of the things I'm doing is making masks, so that's kind of helpful. I'm making these videos. I can draw a little camera here. That makes me feel helpful. And when I feel helpful, I feel happy. And this is how a conversation about helpful would go. I would say something like, when I make my masks or make these videos, I feel helpful. That makes me happy. What makes you feel helpful? How can you be more helpful? What might you do in the house today to be more helpful? Right? So it's not so much about judgment, it's about gathering more information, having a sense of wonder, and being a little bit interested in what the other person is feeling. Not so much what you think they're feeling, but how they describe their feelings themselves. Creating a chart like this is a very simple solution. You can download one, as I said, from the internet and not even draw it yourself, but I really believe that drawing it can become a bigger project. One of the things you can do with school-age kids is you write out the words and then they do the drawings. Or you write out the words and when they're feeling a certain feeling, you have them draw it before you talk about it. Because your confused might be different from somebody else's confused. So a longer form project for the same kind of thing is creating little collages of feelings. And I found these pieces of cardboard in my house. They're very consistent. And I thought, what if I created a series of collages, one with a more challenging word and one with a more positive word, and just started working out a series of these cards that I could have in my house. And the project itself can take up some time. So the two words I'm going to work with right now are confident and lonely. So I decided where I wanted to start. I wanted to start with these two words, but you could figure out where you want to start, and it really doesn't matter. The tools that I'm going to use for this project are a glue stick, which you may or may not have. You might have tape, or Elmer's glue, or some other kind of glue, but for my purposes, I'm going to use a glue stick. I didn't have my craft scissors, so I'm just using my kitchen scissors. My backing, which in this case are these pieces of cardboard that I have left over from another project, and then different sheets of paper that I pulled out of magazines. And the two words that I want to work on are confident, so that's one, and lonely, which is the other. So I'm going to start with confident. I found this picture of this woman, and I really loved it. I just feel like she knows what she's doing. And she looks a little bit like me, so that was a good way for me to start. So the first thing I wanted to do was kind of cut her out and see how she fits on my piece of paper, on my little piece of cardboard here. And then I thought, I probably want something behind her. I had this word confident available to me through this wonderful stack of cards that a friend had given to me. I'll put a link on Facebook of where you can buy them too. So I'm going to use her word confident, and I'll have to cut it down to fit on the piece of paper. And then I wanted to put something beautiful in the background because I think confidence is a very positive thing to feel, especially now when we can all feel so powerless. So I found these beautiful pink flowers, and I'm going to use them as my backdrop. If I were working with somebody and wanted to have a conversation about confidence, it would go a little bit like this. How do you feel when you feel confident? Do you feel it in your body? Does it make you sit up straight? Do you talk louder? How do you feel it in your heart? Is it something that you're comfortable with, or does your confidence make you uncomfortable? How do other people treat you when you're at your most confident? What does that make you feel like? Sometimes people are intimidated by other people's confidence, so it's interesting to have a conversation about confidence. Right now, I'm happy to feel confidence because it's just a bright spot for me. So now I'm going to take my glue stick and my piece of cardboard. I'm going to put my background down. And I noticed here that my cutting isn't perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deal with that. So I have this beautiful green tape. It just showed up in my house yesterday. I don't even know where it came from, but this is a color I adore. And rather than getting all worried about that white line, I'm just going to use my tape. And just like that, create another element. Just something cool, right? A little bit different. And now I have this beautiful woman. I'm going to glue stick her on. And here's my word. So I have to be confident about where that word situates. I'm going to mark it. Cut it. Glue stick it. And there's my card for confident. Isn't it beautiful? I love it. Look at that. She knows what she knows what she's doing, and she's ready for her day. So a more challenging feeling deserves the same treatment. And in this one, I found this wonderful little polar bear. Same treatment. I'm going to cut them out. And I'm a little frustrated by what I did when I tore it out of the magazine because I tore this polar bear down. So I got to figure out how I'm going to work with that. Do I want to set him off to the side maybe? That's, I think, what I'm going to do, like that. And then I also need a background for this one. So I saw this purple and I thought, oh, that might be a really nice color to put behind the polar bear. So I'm going to cut out the purple. These projects can go short or long. It's nice to have the two emotions, one a little bit more challenging and one a little bit more optimistic, so that you can have that balance. And what you're doing is you're basically exploring what these words mean to you in a different way, in this collage way. And over time, if you're having a day that you want to remind yourself how you feel about something, you can go back to your cards or just put them in your room somewhere and just give yourself something else to look at. They're fairly easy to create. Just use things that were lying around the house, old magazines. I'm going to put my little guy on here. I get as much of his face in as I can. And go back to my glue stick. Wanted to really get that look on his face. Or her face, I'm not even sure if it's a boy or a girl or what gender polar bear that might be. Trim off the edges so that these can live almost like a deck of cards, right? I'm trimming. And then I made this earlier because I wanted it to be dry for my demonstration. But using a stamp pad that I had at home, I stamped out the word lonely, because that was the word I was working with. Again, turning the edges. Sometimes when I'm sheltered in place, I feel lonely. I miss my friends, and I miss playing at school, and I even miss playing outside. So sometimes I feel really confident, like when I'm making these videos, and sometimes I feel really lonely because I miss my friends. Part 2, deepening the conversation. Once you've got the feeling words down and the vocabulary down, it's often interesting to talk about the process of feelings, how I felt before, how I feel now, how I might feel in the future, or how you think I feel versus how I actually feel. This section is about using some art projects and art tools to have a little bit of a deeper dialogue. The things to remember when you're sharing is not telling the other person how you think about what they did, but just acknowledging the fact that they did their work and they have a story to tell. In this section, we're going to work with a single sheet of paper. And you know, we started with the single sheet of paper for the feeling chart. You can always add more feelings, but let's look at this one feeling, this feeling of being frustrated. And for this single sheet exercise, I'm just going to use regular printer paper. This is a harder gauge construction paper, and you can really use any other paper that you have lying around the house. But printer paper most people have, so I thought we'd start with that. So you could say, hey, I'm frustrated, and I've identified frustrated on this feeling chart right here. And when I think about what frustration feels like, wow, it feels like fire to me. So when I'm frustrated, I feel very fiery. It's a fiery, hot feeling. And sometimes when I'm frustrated, I can get angry, and that can come out of my frustration. And when I'm thinking about frustration on my single sheet, oh, it's an angry, hot feeling. I think about, well, what would make me feel better? Well, sometimes when I'm frustrated, I need to feel something cooler that cools me down, like maybe water or looking out the window or taking a break. In this case, I think I'll draw water. When I said that, even when I said it, it made the frustration feel better. So Yes, when I get frustrated, I can get super hot. But then I can think of something like water, and that can cool me down. So you see, drawing the picture helps you understand your feelings. What does a feeling look like or feel like? And what's the opposite of it? And how can you get engaged in an activity, maybe beyond the drawing, that can move that forward? So if water cools down my feeling of frustration, maybe I'll just go wash my hands again or something like that. Okay, so that's just looking at what does my emotion feel like. Now, another thing that you can do with paper is really look in terms of the passage of time. And in this particular exercise, you fold the paper as if you were writing a letter. So you fold it into 3 pieces. And the idea here is to look at yesterday, today, and tomorrow, how it used to be, how it is, and how it might be, but really kind of looking at a progression. So, and there's a couple of different ways you can look at this one. One is to work very, very literally, and some people like to do that. And one is to work more abstractly. I'm going to show you an example of both ways. So in the literal version, let's say you're exploring, how did I feel before? How do I feel right now, today? And how might I feel better or different tomorrow? So before, one of the things that I felt before, and I think a lot of people feel before, is that when I wasn't sheltering in place, I spent a lot of time with my friends, right? So here is me with no social distancing, kind of hanging out with all my buddies, doing what we like to do. So I'm just drawing pictures of people hanging out together. And see, there's like lots of people really close together. And in my history, that being together with others kind of made me happy, actually. That's kind of where my happy place was. It always felt like the sun was shining. And I like being with my friends, maybe at school. This friend of mine loves the color purple. So I'm going to draw her with the color purple. She has got blonde hair, right? And I have dark hair. And today I'm wearing blue, so maybe I'll make my shirt blue today. And here's our other friend. They have short hair. And they like hanging out also. And they like to wear green. And here we are. This is what it felt like before I had to shelter in place. I had a lot of people, I was doing a lot of stuff with them. We were outside a lot, and it felt really good. And that's how my life felt, right? So that's yesterday. Now today is a particularly difficult day because today it's raining. And I am not too happy with that. So today I'm having a bad day, and shelter in place is making me feel a little lonely today, and that's one of the reasons why I used the word lonely when I made my collage. So here's me, and I'm wearing my blue shirt, but I'm feeling a little bit stuck in the house because, you know, it's one of those kind of days. So when I talk about this one, it might be, you know, is it always like that? Is every day a tough day, or is it just this day? And the conversation could say something like, well, today was particularly hard because I had these heavy clouds and this rain, right? And then tomorrow, well, what do you think you could do differently tomorrow? And tomorrow I feel like, well, maybe the rain will stop. And one of the things I've been able to do during shelter in place that's been kind of nice is I've been able to work in my garden. So here's me holding a watering can in my garden, right? And it's like, oh, look at me, I'm having fun again. So tomorrow doesn't have to be like today. The weather's going to clear up a little bit. I can go out. I can't be with my friends, but I can go out in my garden and maybe plant a flower or two. I'm starting to grow vegetables, which is fun for me. So here I am with my pink watering can. And water, remember, can make you feel better. So here I am in my tomorrow, kind of thinking of things I could do differently that might make me feel better. So this is a progression, right? This is how it used to be. Now I'm kind of lonely and it was a great day and I had a bad time. But looking forward to tomorrow, there's brightness. I have my flowers that can really make me happy, and I can go out into the garden. So that's a progression that's very literal. But you can also do a progression that's more abstract. So using that same idea of the 3 pages of paper, the 3 folds, right? How it used to be, how it is now, and looking forward to the future. The same way we're kind of looking at a little bit of an abstraction here, just a hot feeling and cool water. You could look at kind of how did it used to feel, right? Move this. And how's it feeling right now? And then what does the future look like? And I'm just going to think about that and work on this for a little bit. So this is a more abstract version of before, now, and later. And if you're going to engage in a conversation about it, you might say, well, what does this mean? What is the before part about? And what's this part about? And what's this part about? And the person might say, well, in before, I was just kind of going with the flow. Everything felt a little easy. I didn't have a lot of things that I was worrying about. And now everything's just kind of like, I'm having a good day. I'm having a bad day. I don't know what to think next. I'm tired of watching the news. It's very agitated and I feel that. And then when I look to the future, it's like everything is being kind of reorganized and I don't know how it's going to land. I kind of feel like it may have elements of the same thing that's in my life right now, but I really don't know how all the pieces are going to fit together. So here is kind of organized. Here, not so much, more like worry. And here it's kind of a new next thing, but I can barely figure out what it is. And so the conversation might be, well, how do you feel about that? And what are you learning from your picture? And it's like, well, I have the same colors and all of it. So maybe there's some continuity for me. I'm still going to be me, right? Maybe this pink disappeared, so I want to put more of that in, but it's still me. I'm still going through this, and I'll still have my skills on the other side. But I don't really know what's going to happen. Then you could say something like, why'd you pick those colors? And it could be, well, these colors make me happy. They're bright. They're kind of sunny. I was having a bad time because it was a rainy day, so I decided to work with colors that are like brighter and make me feel good. And you know what? When I finished drawing this, I realized I'm still going to be me through all of this. And the things that I know and the things that I do are going to change around, but they're still available to me. And it's interesting to see that I really don't know what's going to happen next. Like, I kind of don't know. So I'm trying to keep myself busy, remember my past, understand that there's a lot of me still available, and then just kind of look forward to the future and wonder what's going to happen next. Here's another example of something that you can do with single sheets of paper. So in this one, you take one sheet of paper and you fold it in half. And you cut across. And then right there at the folded, only in that center section, you cut right across the fold. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then with your glue stick, you're going to glue the top piece of paper onto a bottom piece of paper. Now this is a good one. You can use words. There are no rules here, so you can use words for everything. You can write a story. You can do a drawing. You can start layering up multiple pieces of paper. Over the years, people have done really creative things with this exercise, or you could just use it in its basic form, which is 2 sheets of paper. It doesn't really matter. And I'm using glue stick because it's my favorite, but you could use tape if you don't have glue stick and just tape around the edges. So what you're creating here is kind of a little window, or some people call it a stage. And it opens up like that, see? So you've got the outside, and then you have the inside. And what's happening right now is that we have feelings that we're feeling on the outside, but we also have feelings that we're feeling on the inside. And this exercise is kind of talking about what are you showing to the world, and then what's going on inside of your own heart. So the prompt, or the beginning of the exercise, would first be to create these pieces of paper. And sometimes you can create them with the people, or sometimes you can just give it to them already created. It's kind of, I don't think there's a hard rule on that. And then give them time to think about what's going on the outside and what's going on the inside. So let's see. I'm going to have to think about that. What's going on my outside and what's going on my inside? Okay, I think I'm ready to talk about it. So in this one, what I tried to do is create a sense of how it feels to be me right now. So I'm trying to be really productive, keep a very, very bright point of view on how things are going, work in my garden, make these videos, cook good food, and take care of everybody. And it feels actually kind of like growth. But on the inside, I'm a little worried about this virus. So my outside looks really happy, and my inside looks a little bit worried. And see how I've used the same colors on the outside and the inside? Because they're connected to each other, right? I'm able to have this time, which is really great, but I also have this worry, which is really real. And that's my feeling, right? So if you only looked at me from the outside, you'd say, wow, she's having a pretty good time. But on the inside, I'm still having some worries. So I'm wondering what you might feel like on the outside and also what you might feel like on the inside. And this is a really great project for showing those kinds of feelings. Part 3, when in doubt, just draw. So it's really good to just take a part of every day and draw something. And it could be a drawing of feelings, or it could just be a drawing. So take a little bit of time, and in this case, I have printer paper and a pencil and my pastel collection, and I'm just gonna draw and see what happens. And maybe it'll be about feelings and maybe it won't. You know, using a drawing time as a kind of meditation, a quiet time in the day, even putting it on your calendar, like today is going to be a drawing day, or today I'm going to draw for a half an hour, or between 10 and 10:45, I'm just going to sit down and get some drawing done. And for those of you that are better at drawing, that's okay too, right? You can draw a beautiful picture, but allowing the time to do it, just some time for yourself to explore the things that you like to do, the way you like to do them, play around with new techniques or kind of different supplies that you might have lying around the house. I don't have all of my typical supplies. I have a very mixed set of pastels that I'm using, but it's fun. I'm enjoying it. And it calms me down a little bit. And it gives me a little break in my day. It's my drawing time break. And as part of this conversation about feelings, you could say, hey, how did it feel when you sat down and drew? And you could say, you know, it was amazing. I was feeling a little anxious earlier, and then I sat down and I drew for just 15 minutes, and you know, it lightened my spirits. It just made me feel good. It felt funny to have such a short amount of time feel so calm. It's almost like a form of meditation. Just sit and draw. In today's video, we looked at different ways that we could make art and also explore our feelings. So we started with the feeling chart that we found on the internet and created our own feeling chart that we were able to draw and use to have a conversation with each other about specific feelings we might have and broaden all the different words we can use to express our feelings. Then the next thing we did is look at different ways that we can work to deepen that dialogue. So I made those little collages. They were really fun. They were my favorite thing of the day. The other thing we did was we kind of worked with single sheets of paper to see if we could have a kind of conversation with ourselves or with somebody else or someone we love about how we were feeling over time. So yesterday, today, tomorrow, before, during, after, the way we were, the way we are now, and what it might be like in the future. And we looked at that both in a very direct way and also in an abstract way. There's no rules here. You can do it however you want. And then how am I feeling outside and how am I feeling inside? And then the last thing we looked at was just what does it feel like to just sit and draw? And isn't that calming? Isn't that a great way to spend a half an hour just sitting in the kitchen table and drawing? Now don't forget, you've got to wash your hands. You have to clean up because at our house, our drawing table is also our eating table, our dining table, our working table, and our kitchen table. So the next thing I'm going to do is clean up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell if you want to get a notice about our next video. We'll see you soon. Bye.